First, we need to understand some myths of time management, including that you can manage time itself. There is something a lot of us may be guilty of. I'm guilty of it too, and that's the myth of multitasking, thinking it's only going to take a minute. I'm just going to switch over to this next task, and I'll be able to switch back in 1 minute. That's called attention residue, and it leads to mental fatigue. Many people know that multitasking is a myth since our brains aren't designed to handle more than one task at a time. Attention residue is the concept proving this theory right. We can create the illusion of multitasking by juggling several tasks, but in reality, we're just creating mental fatigue. What makes this even trickier is the fact that when we quote unquote multitask, we're under the illusion that more work is getting done. But hint, hint, no more work is actually getting done. You might be hearing this and thinking to yourself, but I'm the exception to the rule. I can really multitask with going off the rails. If that's the case, which I was part of that group too, I'm sorry to break the news to you, but you're probably just unaware about what's really happening to you psychologically. Attention residue isn't always obvious. Sometimes it is clear as day. You feel your brain fogging up as you switch from one task to the next. Other times it's more subtle and harder to pinpoint. You could feel overwhelmed or have difficulty making decisions. You might feel frustrated because you're always starting tasks but never finishing them, or struggling to focus on something for a prolonged period of time. Some people even experience these strange energy slumps, even though they've just had a cup of coffee. In all likelihood, this is caused by attention residue, not just from multitasking, but from any distraction that interrupts your work flow. Dr. Leroy shares attention residue comes into play anytime you switch from one point of focus to another point of focus. However, it doesn't affect everyone equally. It depends on the context of the tasks being completed. Their mere knowledge that you are on a time crunch can increase the amount of attention residue that your brain experiences upon returning to the original task. It could be nice and would be nice if we could all stick to one task consistently. But that's not the reality of the modern workplace. Your boss might come up to you and have an urgent request that you'll have to drop what you're doing. Or you could be in the middle of a project when a colleague or mentee asks for help. So, what can we do to reduce the effects of this attention residue in these situations? Dr. Leroy and her team found that creating a ready to resume intervention plan can significantly reduce attention residue, and it can also improve performance on interrupting tasks. Essentially, this involves setting a clear goal before you switch to another task and creating a plan of action for when you return. You know exactly when you'll return to the task at hand, and the pressure of time is removed. And you're more likely to go back to it with a clear head. For instance, say that you estimate the task at hand needs another 2 hours to be completed. Before you switch to the interrupting task, you make a plan to resume the work on the main task at least 2 hours before the end of the day. By creating this plan and clarifying your goals, you reduce the risk of attention residue. The same applies to any task that is interrupted. Set a goal before switching tasks and the end time when you'll return to that task. When distractions come, and we know they will, you can't simply block them out, but you can control how you manage those distractions. For instance, instead of jumping over to your email inbox when you hear that ping, take a second to note down where you're up to in your current task and when you're going to return. The simple act of grounding yourself in the current task will help you switch back to it with more clarity. If a distraction is something you can easily ignore, then do that. Don't let yourself be tricked into thinking that every distraction must be attended to immediately. There are some things that can wait and that just simply don't need your attention right away. Then leave those things till later. Now, the question also is, what if you're just addicted? Maybe it's not your colleagues distracting you or your Slack messages, but perhaps it's TikTok or YouTube or Instagram. There are many rabbit holes you can go down when trying to cut out social media use. You can download app blockers, delete accounts, and even switch your phone to grayscale mode. But there's only one chat that strategy that I have found effective personally, and that's physical removal of the apps and my phone. In other words, get your phone out of sight and out of the workplace and out of mind. Attention residue is a real problem, and it's one that can be managed with the right strategies. It doesn't matter if your distractions come from external sources like colleagues or environmental factors, or internal sources like addiction to a social media platform or Wordle. What matters is that you take proactive steps to manage them and use the power of your own focus to accomplish these tasks that are most meaningful to you and your team and your family. The truth is, you can't manage your time because you can't control time. You can manage what you can control, and that is your attitude towards time and your behaviors.